you wish. So welcome, Kerry, to the stage. Thank you, Kerry.
Thanks, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I had trouble the other day, people couldn't hear me. So thank you. And yeah, hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being part of today. My goal from our time together is to bring awareness to something that may not even be conscious to you. It's a human trait that lives secretly, if you like. It's an element of who we are, which has been unknowingly contributing to your self-identity creation. Now, I'm going to start with a quote from Jim Rohn. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, I'm absolutely convinced at the time he was talking about business and finance. I'm talking about the connection between people. One of Joe's words is visibility. I want to shift that a little bit and look at the invisible that leads to what we show as the visible world, how we behave and what we say. In short, most people believe our self-identity comes from childhood conditioning, things that we get, repetition, labels we're given, certainly the cultural influence of what we live in, the experiences we have, and the meanings we attach to them. All of that's right. The part I want to take note of is the meanings that we make. And the question from that is, where and when do we determine what meaning we make? In other words, where do we create our judgment lens from? Now, I suspect most of you believe that our individual personal experience of emotions, thoughts, and the physical feelings are our own, no one else's, purely ours. And that's exactly what I believed, at least until I was in my late 20s. I was a single mum, and like most parents, I was looking for some time out. Please, please give me some time out. I got an invitation to a meditation evening, and of course, everyone talks about how good meditation is. I thought, great idea. I'll go and give it a go. It wasn't something I was into. This evening is something that I will never, ever forget. This beautiful, quiet, dim-lit room that had absolute tranquil atmosphere. It was wonderful to walk into. 2 people in the group that were there, I did know. The rest of them, I didn't. So walking into there had my mind a long way from still and tranquil, which is what I was desperately trying to get. Instead, it was racing crazily, preoccupied with what will happen and will I be judged for what I might say or do. Once we actually began the process, I did quieten my mind, thank goodness, and I was able to have a beautiful, calm, relaxing, comforting experience. And I was really pleased that I was part of it, until they said at the conclusion that we were all going to take turns sharing. I just went nuts because I really didn't think I had anything to share. It was just a nice, quiet time. So when it became my time to speak, I started. I opened my mouth, and all of a sudden I was abruptly interrupted by a full body sensation that I just couldn't ignore. I was dominated by this. I had to close my eyes to handle it. Once I did that, I was seeing and hearing things that just weren't present in that room. In fact, I'm not even sure that they were in current time. I had my mind going nuts. One part of me was going, what the heck is happening? And trying to sort that out. And the rest was preoccupied with dealing with what I could actually experience. I was swiftly guided to feel safe and slowly step through what was preceded. They were very supportive. And my share became explaining, or sharing, if you like, and what I was experiencing. Now, I was really aware of an older woman. I could feel in my body what ailed her. I could feel her emotional states. I could hear her. She told me where she lived. I could see things, intricate things in her house. And then to finish it off, she gave me a message to give to her daughter. Now, her daughter was one of the people that I didn't know that were part of that group. And to my surprise, she confirmed everything that I said was true and correct. Now, I was in Australia in someone's lounge room, and this woman was in England. To say that I was stunned was an absolute understatement. I really didn't know if I should be excited or terrified. The thoughts that were racing through my head were countless. Predominantly, what just happened? How and why did it happen? And then, of course, well, is this going to keep happening? Like it came out of my greatest struggles was my existing mindset. I was really clear. I wasn't a psychic. I wasn't a medium. I wasn't one of these gifted people that were having those experiences. I was an everyday mum living in suburbia, raising 2 kids. This was not part of my life. And these very real experiences continued to happen, and they were clashing headlong into my well-established beliefs of being human. The more experiences that I had, the more that I really got what they revealed, that the energetic and vibrational aspect of being human profoundly affects the physical world we know. Now, there were some key points that I learned and simply could not ignore any longer. The invisible element of our physical experience was relevant to everybody, not just to me, not just to special gifted people. We are energy. It's part of being a human. Our energy, mine, interacts with other people's, yours, everyone here in the group is part of the connection that's here. I call it energy soup. These interactions impact on individual personal experiences. So going back to my question earlier about where does our judgment lens come from? Now, I started to get some answers when I heard an interview with Bruce Lipton, and he was talking about how our experiences begin pre-birth. When we're in utero, the child and mother are absolutely experiencing everything as one. So everything the mother experiences, including her emotional states and the hormones that get released with those emotions, are already creating experiences. And that child is already making decisions about themselves. These beliefs become the lenses for post-birth experiences. In other words, a lens or lenses for making meaning for what happens in our life. Now, of course, these experiences started for me well before things like the movie The Secret. Big names like Joe Dispenza, Lynn McTaggart, Greg Brennan, none of these were around at the time. The terms like new science or quantum physics, never heard of them at that stage. So, of course, conversations or any common knowledge about energy just was absolutely put into the theory, science fiction, woo-woo, psychic or spiritual baskets, the only way people could handle it. Somehow, the universe provided me with the most amazing teacher and mentor, and we worked closely. We developed and refined her unique transformational technique, which was a huge part of my life-changing steps. the opportunity to be a transformational practitioner for my teachers' programs gave me experiences that I just would never, ever have got elsewhere. And through that, I could work with parents, which taught me heaps about the parent and child connection, and how if we change the energy of the parents, in other words, their identity, that produces changes in the child. Now, I was damn excited by this. Being a single parent, I was looking for all that I could find to help me through my parenting. So what I did know about my journey in utero, my mother found out that she was pregnant. She instantly was fearful and anxious. She knew that she would be blamed because it wasn't supposed to happen yet. And she had thoughts of, I am wrong. My parents decided to try and keep it secret for as long as possible anyway. And then I was topped off with my birth, which was 3 days of labour, and then in the end having to be a C-section delivery, which of course had powerlessness and others have control. Now, these were my self-identity foundation beliefs. These were things that I locked in before I was even born. The sharing of the experience with my mother, I had created my own version of fear and anxiety, a deep knowing that I'm wrong, I must be kept secret, and a good dose of powerlessness and others have control. Being able to use these and reflect back on my life, I could see how these foundation moments had absolutely were the beginnings of my self-identity. These lenses I had continued to use, influencing all of the experiences and making meaning from everything I went through. By then, I was living quite recluse, really. A lot of the time as almost a hermit. I was low in self-confidence and self-esteem. I had been bullied through my school years, and so that progressed to emotionally abusive relationships. I was a stress head. Now, I would never have seen that at the time, but I truly did. It was always thinking what could go wrong rather than what could go right. I didn't let people close, so I had very few friends. And my relationships and mixing in social groups, well, they could actually be seen as people-pleasing. By now, you might be thinking, oh, I know this and that about my in-utero experience and what my mother went through, and maybe you can start to see some relevant points for yourself. I know I had to think about it when I thought about when I was carrying my children and went, oh, okay, yeah, I went through that and that. But I found peace just knowing that everything is in the right place at the right time. And talking of my kids, yep, they were typical and absolutely challenged me with their behaviours many, many times. And my parenting moments of self-judgement certainly were predominant. I should have the answers. I should be able to change their behaviours. Now, some of their behaviours were very challenging, and I was doing my absolute utmost to not have them be labelled. But when I got to the point of positive parenting approaches, and of course all the discipline ideas had failed, I was left with the only thing possible. What am I doing wrong? Again, reinforcing my own self-identity, of course. But once I did flip and I started to live and understand things from this new perspective, I got insights and behaviour changes nothing else got close to. Implementing conscious energy awareness totally changed how I perceived our family dynamics, and it turned into positive ways that nothing else offered me. Now, I did mention labels, and yes, I'm talking about childhood behaviour labels. And to be clear, yes, I'm old enough that when I was a child, these terms simply did not exist. From the stories that my mother shared with me about my behaviour as a child, and beginning from toddler through into my school years, it was really a progression from crazy, over-the-top excitement stuff to out-of-control, random behaviours, becoming more and more clingy as I got older, always wanting to be physically close to her. And yet my rebellious, secretive ways and moody outbursts took over, really creating greater and greater separation. Back then, it was simply called misbehaviour, naughty, you're a nuisance. Things like clingy, needing, and lacking in confidence. They were the answers, and of course topped off with rebellious and disobedient. When I look at things today and what happens, I probably would have ended up with a collection of labels such as ADHD, ODD, childhood separation anxiety, and the beauty, emotional dysregulation. But what was really happening? What I could understand is this. I was experiencing the hidden, unspoken fear and anxiety my parents lived. The unconscious energy connection had me experiencing fear and anxiety. It was an expression that I did in various ways, everything from the clinginess in search of comfort to my hyper energy thing being an attempt to manage fear and the adrenaline bursts that would come with that. And of course, well, anger and pushing away are simply just trying to deal with it or get away from it. The double whammy, of course, each time my behaviour produced a I'm wrong or misbehaving, which the world usually did, it just reinforced the identity I was creating of I'm wrong. What my mother had no idea of at that time was I was regularly being bullied at school, never spoke a word of it. I kept it all a secret that fear and loneliness had really become my school companions. Had my mother known about energy connection and communication, she would have known the truth behind my behaviours and absolutely had a different solution to the situation. Now, I often hear people talking about people pleasing, and it's always said with condemnation. Here's a different slick twist. Because of my energy sensitivity, my people pleasing was truly a selfish drive. While the people around me felt crappy, to put it simply, I felt crappy. My actions were always to try and get a shift in their emotional state just so I could feel comfortable, be happy, and not consumed with what they were experiencing. Now, the tools of discernment and conscious awareness that I now live with absolutely give me a different way of life. And I'm going to be fully transparent here. It is something I have to keep practicing. We are so well trained at ignoring and not knowing it. But it's a life-saving skill. And there are times I miss recognizing a connection, but as soon as I catch on, I know how to make the shift. So, as you've heard, my unconscious self-identity creation would fill me with self-doubts, fear of judgment, fear of being wrong, absolutely, looking stupid, and the need to stay secret dictated my behaviour constantly. This was my self-identity before I learned about conscious energy connection. My chances of being, as Joe puts it, visible, empowered, inspired, having courage and confidence was absolutely zilch. Yet here I am talking to you today, and I'm pleased to be doing it. I know now whether I'm conscious in the moment or not, my energy contributions to others can and does make a difference to them. And my energy connections to others can and often does produce changes in my emotional states and behaviour. I called myself, you ready for it, a blind, unknowing casualty, a victim to the energy connection element of being human. So we didn't know it was there. Now I call myself conscious energy connector with a unique perspective on relationships, children's behaviours, social issues like peer pressure, anxiety, addictions and bullying. With nearly, well over 35 years of living and working this way, I'm very clear that conscious energy connection is the most efficient way to transform children's and adults' behaviour into emotional regulation, behavioural stability and resilience. I started with a quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," and the power of this is worth remembering. It applies to your child in the beginning of life, with the childminders, the friends they make, the social and sporting groups they're part of. It applies to you with your relationships, your business connections, work and social, social environments. It's not a passing phase. This is a human experience we've never acknowledged, and therefore we've never learned how to live with it. We live in a world that unfortunately is just a massive growing fear, anger, growing disconnection, and simply the idea of our children being exposed and experiencing other people's emotional states almost easily, more easily than catching a virus. That's terrifying, but it's also an empowering opportunity. Once I actually understood being a conscious energy connector, it was a way of life, it was a parenting strategy, and certainly a transformational tool for me and others. I knew so little of this when I was raising my children, but I did show what I knew, and it helped in ways that discipline, therapy, and simply talking about it just couldn't do. And of course, my kids grew and were more influenced by peers than me. But we did keep conversations going, perhaps more privately, but they were always powerful, and I was so pleased to do it. So this is why I share my story with you today. Some might say if the connection's real, but I absolutely know it's real. And every parent deserves to understand it. And certainly every child deserves to grow up empowered by it. Having conscious connections, being responsible for what we energetically contribute and what we connect to. That's all about finding our way back to self-love, to consciously knowing the greater being of love that we are. It means the unconscious creation of things like not good enough, I'm wrong, fear, anger, hate, greed, which we're all said today we can relate to. It spreads like wildfire when we don't know it's there. And if we stop that, then love, compassion, kindness, and caring can actually be the way of humanity. Being conscious of the unconscious is raising ourselves into greatness. And then we can raise our children into greatness consciously. So if there's anything that I have shared there today that resonates with you, and you would like further information, or you want to change your current self-identity, because I do work one-on-one with people, then please take to the email. Joe, I think I'll just put my email into the chat. It's also on the handout, and so people can pick it up from there. Be sure to let me know that you've been part of Joe's summit. I'll do a special price for anyone that comes through from there. I've also got a school community which I've only just launched, so there's not many in there. Please come and join, have some conversations. It's called Energy Wise Parenting Hub. And I thank Joe for the opportunity of being here today.